Hey everybody, it's Jeff, and this is the indie game Legend 3D development log, week 2. So this last week went by pretty fast as it was catching up on a lot of smaller tasks, some of which made a significant impact on the game. So let's jump right in and check them out. Monday saw some of the most significant changes, including adding enemy hit points, so some enemies could be stronger than others. This also allowed me to wire up the boss meter, showing the boss's health as you fight him. After that, I worked on player damage, which is probably the biggest change to date, in that you can actually die now. Since you couldn't die before, it was arguably not a game until now, and it turns out this game is pretty hard. In fact, it might be too hard. So I made a note that we'll probably have to do a lot of tuning later on. But for now, I wanted to keep going on these tasks. So the last thing I did on Monday was implement the recharging of your special weapon. So now when you collect these little crystals or gems, not only does it increase your score, but it also recharges your special weapon. Tuesday, I got 2 major things done. First, I added text screen messages. These communicate game messages to the player. They're also used for dialogue from the indies you rescue, like Cactus here. The other thing I did Tuesday was write a shader. This was one of the first shaders I've done from scratch that does anything interesting. It lets you cover a sprite's shape with a solid color. For some reason, this is not something you can do out of the box with Unity. I use this to properly implement the upgrade pickup glow, as well as a much needed visual feedback for when you hit enemies. On Wednesday, I fixed a lot of bugs. Starting with re-implementing sliders, which had always been problematic, then making sure bullets didn't get through corridors to neighboring rooms. This uncovered a bug where you could enter a room in such a way that would hide all the enemies in that room. But before fixing that, I wanted to fix a long-standing issue where my vertical look would jitter instead of properly clamp. Since I'd spent time on it before and couldn't figure it out, I decided to just grab some existing code from the internet that I knew worked. And I finished the day taking out that bug that hit enemies. Thursday was a shorter day. I finished the special weapon fallback behavior, so when you run out of special ammo, you automatically switch back to your normal weapon. This also meant fixing the HUD to show when the special weapon was disabled. And there were 2 content changes, putting the captive's jail cell door behind them so you could see them in the cell when you enter the room, and putting the data disk's mini room door facing the corridor so you see it immediately when you enter the room. Paul mentioned making the boss bleed when you shoot him, so I finished the day adding that. Yeah! Friday, I decided to change things up. I started the main menu. I've gotten better at working with Unity's UI and event system for menus, but it's still a pain. I think it's still better than not using it though. The funnest part of the day was implementing the little star twinkle, perhaps because it was so simple but so satisfying. I spent most of the time setting up the beginning of an options screen, which I'd never done before, and was a battle against Unity to make it behave right. I didn't finish it, but in terms of broad strokes, the main menu is there now. There we go. Next week is another mixed bag. I'll probably spend 1 or 2 days tuning the inner loop of the game with Paul. He's been using the stream to suggest ways to improve it between builds. I also want to get checkpoints and saves in, as it doesn't actually save your progress at the moment. And before we can hand this off to be able to play test, I'll need to make the option screen at least functional. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody that joined me during the week. You can participate as well by following me on Twitch, or subscribe to my YouTube to get streams after broadcast. See you next week.